This is Center Stage, putting lawyers in the spotlight by highlighting attorneys and other industry experts to help take your law firm to the next level. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Center Stage. I am your host, John Henson, and this week we have attorney Nadine Heitz with us today. Nadine, how are you doing?
Great, John. Thank you.
Awesome. Glad to have you. So this week we are talking about the importance of staying in touch with your contacts. And if you've followed any of Spotlight Branding's content for a while now, we always talk about how important it is to stay top of mind and how easy it is to be forgotten as an attorney just with all of the information we're bombarded with on a daily basis. And Nadine, she is really passionate about this, and she is spent a lot of time in her firm, really mastering this. And I thought it would be great to have her come on and talk about this. So before we get in, Nadine, why don't you kind of introduce yourself a little bit, where you're based out of, and kind of just how you decided to become an attorney in the first place.
Okay, great. Thanks, John. Well, I am an immigration lawyer here in South Florida. I'm in a beach town called Lake Worth Beach, very close to West Palm Beach. I'm originally from Toronto, Canada, and came here in 2005 and been here in Florida ever since. We do go back a lot. So now me and my family, we're all dual Canadian and US citizens. Law is kind of a second career for me. I was actually in Toronto, a marketing executive in the retail department store industry, way different from what I'm doing now. But we kind of fell in love with this town in Florida, and we had an opportunity to come and live here through a work visa that I was offered by, coincidentally, a law firm to manage their firm. And it was mainly because of my marketing and advertising background that I was hired for that position. And that's how I kind of grew to really love immigration law. And one day I just decided, you know what, I want to do this myself. I want to open my own firm. So I went to law school and got my license to practice law and opened my own firm. And that's kind of how I started.
Awesome. Yeah. You're kind of one of the rare ones because a lot of attorneys just don't have any marketing background at all.
Right.
I don't think they teach any sort of marketing in law school.
They don't. Right.
Exactly.
Which is
Yeah,
probably why I'm so passionate about marketing, because that was my career back in Canada.
Yeah. Awesome. So, you're the perfect person to talk to about this. So when it comes to staying in touch with all of your clients, all of your leads, potential clients, what sort of ways have you found is the most effective way to do that over the years?
Okay, well, I had some ideas when I launched my practice back in 2015 on what I wanted to do. And I knew I wanted to do a monthly newsletter, an email newsletter. I was familiar with programs like Constant Contact, and, I had set these up before. So I knew that I wanted to do that. And I knew it was a great way to stay in touch. So I did launch my own newsletter, but you know what happens, right? You get busy and the consistency kind of drops off. So as much as in my first couple of years of my firm, I was able to maintain it myself, it really got to the point where I couldn't really do it on my own anymore. So that's where obviously a service like yours comes along and is really beneficial for me, because now I have that consistency. And I really have found the newsletter helpful because my clients do respond to it. It's not even so much that they're, responding and asking questions about the content. I'm sure they find the content useful. I hope they do. But they almost use it as a reminder that I'm there. So, every time I issue a newsletter, I'll get one or two people replying to the newsletter, but they're asking me a completely different question. So they might say, hey, I have this new case that I would like to discuss with you. And it's like they're using that newsletter as a reminder that I'm there and that I'm an immigration attorney, which is, I think, one of the big goals for doing a newsletter like that.
Yeah, and we kind of hear it all the time, at Spotlight Branding, where attorney will be sending an email newsletter out for months and months and months and months, and finally it'll get someone to respond, and it's like, hey, I've been getting your emails, and now I'm ready to work with
Right.
you. And it's like,
Right.
if you're not sending those emails out, you never would have gotten that business to begin with. And it's such an easy thing to just send out on a consistent basis.
Right, exactly. And, with all of these newsletter services, whether you're using MailChimp or Constant Contact, they all have the unsubscribe feature. So you
Right.
don't feel bad sending it out because you know that, if anyone doesn't want it, I'm not going to take offense if you unsubscribe because, I do that all the time, right? We get too many things that we're just not interested in. But luckily, I don't have a lot of unsubscribes, and I've built up my my newsletter subscribers, and it's great to do that. So I think that that's really a great way to stay in touch with your clients, with people you meet, with past consultations that maybe didn't sign up for a case. It's a great way just to remind them that I'm there.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing before we kind of transition to another way of keeping in touch is another great piece about the email newsletters is, if you're putting out good content with it and the information that you're putting in there is really relevant, a lot of times you can remind people of what it is that you do and other ways that you can help people. So maybe in your instance, you had a lead come in who maybe needed a particular visa or whatever the case is. And then maybe a few months down the road, your newsletter is all about, the path to gaining US citizenship.
Right.
All of a sudden it's like, hey, I have a friend who needs to become a US citizen.
Exactly.
I didn't know you did that. You can help them with that. And now you've got referrals and, it's become such a great tool.
Exactly. And it also allows you to really, I think, focus on an area you may want to specialize in. So my goal is kind of to position myself in the family immigration law world. So the majority of our cases are for families who are getting married, a marriage visa, or who want to bring their family members from overseas on certain types of visas, or, eventually that leads to a path of becoming a US citizen through the naturalization process. So you're right. So there's so many stages in that life cycle of those clients that they can definitely be constantly reminded that I'm there and I can help their friends or help their family members.
Yeah. Awesome. So, I mean, we could probably do a whole episode on just how important email is, but let's talk about some other ways that you keep in touch. What about social media? How important is social media in terms of your communication of your business to potential contacts?
Well, it's incredibly important because I know my clients are on Facebook and social media. I've actually had a few clients find me that way. So I know that they're out there, and, my demographic is largely on Facebook. So what I'm trying to do is post regularly, but again, it's kind of like the same thing with the newsletter. I start off great, and then I kind of, I forget, and then I get kind of tired of posting. And, again, with Spotlight Branding, you do offer the service, which I'm using, of posting regularly for me. So that's a great way to do it. You can, of course, have, maybe you have a staff member in your office that can do that too. But I tried that, and it's just that we kind of got busy with other things, and I would always never really place a priority on that. I would always make the legal work for the clients the priority. Oh, we got to get this case out, we got to do that. So social media always kind of fell on the back burner. So it's kind of nice to have a service that does it for you, at least to maintain that consistency, because everything you read tells you that consistency is key, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and one of the traps that a lot of attorneys fall into is they have these peaks and valleys where they get really busy and they think, okay, well, clearly the marketing that we were doing is working. We've got enough legal work now. And then they get done with those cases and they don't have anything to work on. So now it's like, okay, we got to ramp back up our marketing again.
Right.
Get in these waves, and optically it doesn't look great. If someone comes to your social media profiles and they see that the last time you posted was 3 months ago, maybe they think you're not even in business anymore, especially with the way things are now with a lot of small businesses, unfortunately, closing up. And so, yeah, to your point, that's why it's so important to consistently put that stuff out. Even if you can't, have someone in the office do it, get a vendor to do it, and make sure that stuff is constantly being churned out. And
Exactly.
in communication with everybody.
Yeah. And, it's not to say that I still can't post myself, right? Because I still do. And, when things happen that are interesting, or especially breaking news type stuff, I mean, I'll post that myself. But it's so relieved now to know that I have consistently got a service that is posting on my behalf regularly. And, we do review the posts a month at a time so that I know what is going out and I can make changes to it. But it's just nice to know that that is there and that it's happening in case I kind of drop off.
Yeah. And so when it comes to communicating, with your audience, clients, potential clients, whatever the case is, we have always said that it's got to be practical, evergreen content. How important is that to your business and how you communicate with your audience?
Well, I think it's really, really important. When I, like I said, when I launched my firm, I created a whole bunch of blog posts myself on kind of general topics about, different types of visas and how you qualify and how they work. And I was doing pretty good maintaining it. And I think it really helped me launch because I was lucky that I did get a lot of clients in the beginning just through Google searches, local Google searches that found me. And I think having that content really helped. But just like with the newsletter, I got busy and it just dropped off. And like you said, you could go to my website a couple of years ago and I hadn't written a blog post in maybe a year, and it was pretty embarrassing. So I thought, again, hire somebody to do it. You can maybe have someone in your company do it, or a virtual assistant. I'm using your company, Spotlight Branding, to write my blogs every month. Now I have every month a really well-written article that is posted, and I decide on the content, so I know what I want to talk about. And I still edit it, I still review it and put my finishing touches on it. But again, it's that consistency, right? It's knowing that we have something posted every month, like you say, that is informational and practical content. And with immigration, there's never a dull moment. There's like always something going on, always something changing. Sometimes you need some flexibility to decide last minute, oh, well, I was going to post that blog article, but now, a new immigration regulation just came out, so we got to change it. And luckily, I've been able to do that with Spotlight Branding, and, kind of a week in advance of my blog that I was going to launch, decide, oh, you know what? I think I got to write about this now. No problem. We'll do that one next month and we'll change it. So it is important to have that content on a regular basis for me.
Yeah, I agree. And even in other practice areas, that may not be as fast moving and fast changing as immigration, it's still so important to just keep that evergreen content consistently coming out. That way, when people go to your website and they have questions, they can get more educated. And we've seen, a more educated prospect typically leads to a little faster closing time. So you're not spending as much time explaining what has to go on or whatever. You spend more time actually on those billable hours working on the case that they hired you to do.
Right. And the great thing also is the content can be recycled, right? You can, you can repost some of the older blog posts that, you want to, of course, make sure that it's still current. But you can certainly go in and do updates. I've done that before when things changed. I've, gone in and edited a blog and said, update, this was changed now on whatever date. But yeah, so it's great to have. And it really does position you as a so-called expert in that field, right? So that people know that you are the one that they're going to come to for advice on their matter, whether it's immigration or whatever you happen to practice.
Yeah. And to the point that you just made about recycling content, I've heard a lot of lawyers kind of push back on that. And it's like, oh, it's recycled, it feels lazy to do that. And what you're missing there is that not everybody's going to see it the first time around. Kind of to the point I was making earlier is just there's so much content out there now it's easy to get missed the first time. It could take 3 or 4 different postings of a blog for someone to finally see it, for the right person to finally see it. And so that's kind of the uphill battle that you face a little bit with content, but it's so important to just keep consistently putting it out there, whether it's on social media, email, on your website, wherever you're putting it out. So awesome stuff. I think we will kind of wrap things up here a little bit. So Nadine, obviously the way we like to wrap this show up is if you could give one piece of advice to all the other attorneys out there, what would it be?
Well, I think for me, my advice would be to other solo attorneys that, it's just you and your practice. Maybe you have a couple of assistants and that's about it. There comes a point in time when you have to realize that you can't do everything yourself anymore. So I think that you have to decide to maybe give up some of those tasks, and especially the tasks that a lawyer doesn't necessarily have to do. You may love the marketing. I love the marketing because that was my background and I have a passion for it and I love doing it. I enjoyed it, but I realized that I just can't keep doing it anymore, even though I know I can do it and I like doing it and maybe I think I can do it well, but I need to hire someone to do this. I need to outsource this. And, don't make that decision too late. I think I almost waited too long. I went too long without having any blogs updated, without sending out any newsletters. And I think if I had made that decision earlier, I would have been maybe, a bit further ahead to where I am now, but it's okay. Just make that decision and just give it up. And yeah, you're going to have to spend some money paying somebody, but it's going to be really worth it.
Yeah, right. You got to spend money to make money. And to your point, and when it comes to delegating things, there's kind of a version of the 80-20 rule where, like the original one is like 80% of your profits come from 20% of your clients or whatever. But in business development, there's also a version of the 80-20 rule where it says if someone can do a job 80% as well as you can, you should delegate that task. And I think, marketing for most attorneys is one of those things that should absolutely be delegated. Bookkeeping, receptionist work, stuff like that. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think as attorneys, we often feel that we're the only ones that can really create the content because it's legal, content, and we're often paranoid about what we put out there. So you need to really find a company or a person that's going to have you involved as reviewing things. Of course, nobody should be posting stuff without you approving it in advance, right? This is going out under your name, your firm. But find a way to work, back and forth with a company or a person that can help you with this. And it can work because you'll have the final say. But they can do some of the research on writing content for you. They don't have to be a lawyer to write the content. You can tell them the areas that you want to focus on, and they can do the research, and then you can review it and tweak it.
Yeah, and that content doesn't even have to be this in-depth legal brief, that you're.
No, you don't want that, right?
Exactly.
Sometimes we get carried away and get
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the big thing to keep in mind is that your audience is just looking for that surface level information, just so that you're just indicating to them that you understand what they're going through. They don't need to get into the weeds of kind of how the sausage is made or whatever. They just know that you know how to make the sausage, and that's
right. And it doesn't have to be that long either. I noticed the difference on the early blog posts that I wrote in the beginning that tended to be a little long because I wanted to kind of explain everything thoroughly. And some of the newer blog posts, and sometimes I feel like, oh, gee, that's all you wrote. But then I think about it, I know that when I'm reading someone else's blog, I just skim through it and look at the bullet points and the headlines, and nobody has time to read like for 10 minutes, right?
Right. Exactly. Awesome. Well, Nadine, this has been fantastic. I've really enjoyed having you on today.
Thank you.
Yeah. So everyone else out there, continue to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, wherever you're finding your podcasts. Again, thank you to Nadine Heitz, attorney, for talking about just how important it is to stay in touch with your contacts. And that's going to wrap it up this week. We will see you next time.
Thanks for listening. To learn more, go to spotlightbranding.com/centerstage.